In the wealthiest nation on earth, it's a cruel irony that finding a safe, affordable place to live remains a distant dream for so many. The lack of affordable housing is a crisis that affects us all, reverberating through our communities and impacting families across generations. Since its inception in 1974, the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program has aimed to bridge the gap between income and housing costs, offering a beacon of hope to millions of low-income families. The program, often simply referred to as Section 8, is a lifeline for families struggling to keep a roof over their heads. It represents a recognition that everyone deserves a safe and decent place to live, regardless of their income. This essay delves into the heart of Section 8, exploring its past, present, and future. The story of Section 8 is not just about bricks and mortar, it's about people. It's about the single mother working 2 jobs who can finally afford to provide a stable home for her children. It's about the senior citizen who no longer has to choose between paying rent and buying groceries. However, the reality of Section 8 is often far more complicated. Long waiting lists, bureaucratic hurdles, and a shortage of landlords willing to participate in the program create significant barriers for those seeking assistance. Despite these challenges, Section 8 remains a crucial safety net for countless families. As we move forward, it's imperative that we not only strengthen and expand this vital program but also address the systemic issues that perpetuate housing insecurity. Only then can we truly ensure that everyone has access to safe, affordable housing and the opportunity to thrive. To understand the origins of Section 8, we must travel back to a time of immense economic hardship, the Great Depression. The Housing Act of 1937, a landmark piece of legislation, emerged from this era of widespread poverty and housing instability. This act marked the federal government's first foray into providing affordable housing assistance, recognizing the crucial link between housing and economic security. The 1937 Act primarily focused on slum clearance and the construction of public housing projects. This legacy of discrimination would continue to cast a long shadow on housing policy for decades to come, shaping the landscape that Section 8 would later inherit. Fast forward to the 1960s and 70s, a period of social upheaval and transformative change. The Civil Rights Movement brought the issue of racial discrimination to the forefront, demanding an end to segregation and inequality in all facets of American life, including housing. Amidst this backdrop of social change, the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1965 introduced a new approach to affordable housing assistance rent subsidies. Instead of building and owning housing units, the government would now provide financial assistance directly to low-income families, allowing them to rent housing in the private market. However, the Section 23 program, while innovative in its concept, faced significant challenges. In 1974, amidst a growing recognition of the limitations of previous housing programs, Congress enacted the Housing and Community Development Act. This act established Section 8, a program that would revolutionize affordable housing assistance in America. Section 8 built upon the concept of rent subsidies, but introduced a more streamlined and tenant-focused approach. Under Section 8, eligible families would receive vouchers that covered a portion of their rent, allowing them to choose housing in the private market that met their needs and preferences. The Housing Choice Voucher Program aimed to empower families, offering them greater autonomy and control over their housing situations. However, the program's success would depend on a multitude of factors, including funding levels, landlord participation, and the government's commitment to fair housing enforcement. The decades following the creation of Section 8 witnessed a complex interplay of political ideologies, economic forces, and social movements, all of which shaped the program's trajectory. The 1980s under the Reagan administration saw a shift towards market-based solutions to social problems, including housing affordability. This period marked a decline in federal funding for affordable housing programs, including Section 8, leading to longer waiting lists and reduced access for families in need. Despite these challenges, Section 8 remained a vital lifeline for millions of Americans. Advocacy groups and community organizations fought tirelessly to protect the program from budget cuts and to ensure that it continued to serve those most in need. The demand for Section 8 vouchers soared, far exceeding the limited supply, leaving countless families struggling to keep a roof over their heads. At its core, Section 8 operates on a deceptively simple premise: to bridge the gap between what low-income families can afford to pay for rent and the actual cost of housing in the private market. Instead of directly providing housing units, like traditional public housing projects, Section 8 empowers families with housing choice vouchers, essentially portable subsidies that accompany them on their search for decent, safe, and sanitary housing. Once a family is deemed eligible for Section 8 and receives their voucher, they embark on a journey to find a suitable rental unit that meets their needs and preferences. This could be an apartment, a townhouse, or even a single-family home, as long as it meets the program's housing quality standards and rent reasonableness guidelines. Families are no longer confined to living in designated public housing projects, often located in economically disadvantaged neighborhoods. The path to securing a Section 8 voucher, however, is rarely smooth or straightforward. It often begins with a long and arduous application process, fraught with paperwork, eligibility requirements, and often a hefty dose of bureaucratic red tape. Families seeking assistance must first contact their local public housing agency, or PHA, which administers the program at the county or city level. The PHA then guides applicants through a rigorous process of income verification, asset assessments, and family composition reviews. The wait for a Section 8 voucher can be agonizingly long, often stretching into years. Due to chronic underfunding and the ever-growing demand for affordable housing, many PHAs have been forced to close their waiting lists entirely, leaving countless families in a state of limbo. The question of who qualifies for Section 8 is deceptively complex, governed by a web of federal regulations, income limits, and family size considerations. At its core, the program aims to assist very low-income families, defined as those earning 50% or less of the area median income, a figure that varies significantly across different geographic locations. Priority is often given to families facing the most dire circumstances, such as those experiencing homelessness, living in substandard housing, or paying an exorbitant portion of their income on rent. The program takes into account a multitude of factors, including family size, disability status, and whether any members are elderly or veterans. Navigating these intricacies of eligibility requires a deep understanding of the program's rules and regulations, often necessitating the assistance of caseworkers, legal aid organizations, or housing advocates. While Section 8 focuses on empowering tenants, its success hinges on the crucial participation of landlords. After all, a housing voucher is only as good as the available units landlords are willing to rent under the program's terms. This dynamic introduces a layer of complexity, as landlords weigh the potential benefits of Section 8 participation against perceived risks and administrative burdens. On the one hand, Section 8 offers landlords a guaranteed stream of rental income, often directly deposited by the PHA, mitigating the risk of late payments or missed rent. However, these advantages are often overshadowed by concerns about bureaucratic hurdles, stringent housing inspections, and a perceived stigma associated with renting to low-income tenants. These perceptions, often rooted in broader societal biases against low-income individuals, create a significant barrier to wider landlord participation, limiting housing choices for voucher holders and perpetuating cycles of poverty and segregation. The promise of Section 8 is not one of permanent housing, but rather a temporary bridge over troubled waters, offering families a chance to regain their footing and strive for self-sufficiency. Unlike traditional public housing, where families could potentially reside for generations, Section 8 assistance is designed to be time-limited, albeit with some notable exceptions. While the specifics of program tenure can vary depending on local PHA policies and federal regulations, the overarching goal remains the same: to provide families with a safety net while they work towards financial stability and secure more permanent housing solutions. For many families, Section 8 serves as a critical lifeline during times of crisis, allowing them to escape homelessness, flee domestic violence situations, or recover from job loss or medical emergencies. The program provides a much-needed respite from the constant fear of eviction, offering a stable foundation upon which families can rebuild their lives. The duration of Section 8 assistance is not arbitrary but rather determined by a complex interplay of factors, including family circumstances, income fluctuations, and local housing market conditions. While federal guidelines provide a framework, PHAs are granted a certain degree of flexibility in tailoring program rules to meet the specific needs of their communities. For instance, a family experiencing a temporary setback, such as a job loss or illness, might receive an extension on their voucher, allowing them time to regain their financial footing. Conversely, if a family's income increases significantly, their portion of the rent contribution will likely rise as well, gradually reducing their reliance on the program. This dynamic element of Section 8 aims to strike a balance between providing adequate support and encouraging self-sufficiency. In areas with tight housing markets and limited rental stock, families might remain on the program for extended periods, simply because finding alternative affordable housing proves impossible. Section 3. Time limits and their impact, a double-edged sword. The imposition of time limits on Section 8 assistance has been a subject of ongoing debate, with proponents arguing that it promotes self-sufficiency and prevents long-term dependency, while critics contend that it can create undue hardship and push families back into precarious housing situations. The reality, as is often the case with complex social programs, is nuanced and multifaceted. On the one hand, time limits can serve as a powerful motivator, encouraging families to actively pursue employment, education, and other avenues to improve their financial circumstances. The looming deadline can instill a sense of urgency, prompting families to take advantage of job training programs, seek out higher-paying employment, or pursue career advancement opportunities. However, for families facing significant barriers to self-sufficiency, such as lack of affordable childcare, limited access to transportation, or health issues, time limits can feel like a ticking time bomb, amplifying stress and anxiety. In such cases, the threat of losing their housing subsidy can be counterproductive, potentially derailing progress and pushing families into even more precarious situations. Section 4. Beyond the Clock. Transitioning from Section 8 to self-sufficiency. The ultimate goal of Section 8 is not simply to provide temporary housing but to equip families with the tools and resources they need to achieve lasting self-sufficiency. This requires a holistic approach that goes beyond simply providing rent subsidies, encompassing job training, financial literacy programs, educational opportunities, and access to support services. Public housing authorities, or PHAs, play a crucial role in facilitating this transition, connecting families with local organizations and resources that can help them address the underlying causes of their housing instability. This might include partnering with workforce development agencies to provide job training and placement services, collaborating with financial counseling organizations to help families manage their budgets and build credit, or linking families with childcare subsidies and transportation assistance programs. Moreover, fostering a sense of community and support among Section 8 participants can be instrumental in promoting successful transitions. Peer-to-peer mentoring programs where families who have successfully navigated the program share their experiences and offer guidance to those newer to Section 8 can be incredibly valuable. Creating opportunities for families to connect, share resources, and support one another can create a sense of empowerment and hope, fostering a belief that lasting self-sufficiency is attainable. Section 8's uncertain future, rising housing costs, stagnant wages, and a growing need for affordable housing options. The future of Section 8 hangs in the balance. Conceived in an era of social upheaval, it now faces a precarious future, subject to shifting political winds and limited resources. Decades of underfunding have left the program struggling. Long waiting lists stand as a stark reminder of the gap between promise and reality. Securing housing justice for all. Ensuring housing justice demands a paradigm shift in affordable housing. We must address systemic issues like income inequality and racial discrimination. Increasing funding for Section 8 is essential. But money alone won't solve the problem. We need a multi-pronged approach. This includes living wages, affordable healthcare and childcare, and ending housing discrimination. Invest in new affordable housing units. Housing is a fundamental human right, essential for stability and well-being. Embrace a vision of shared responsibility, where everyone has a role in creating a just society, one where everyone has a place to call home.